All away the bowling, Kitty is me darling. All away the bowling, ho. All away the bowling, Kitty lives in Liverpool. All away the bowling, ho.
Whales and whaling have always lain at the heart of New England's culture. From the earliest settlements on, whaling, seafaring, and sea culture were an integral part of New England life. Even passengers on the Mayflower remarked how abundant the whales and sea life were around the New England coast. Native Americans often hunted whales close to the coast, then waited for the carcass to wash ashore so that its various parts could be used, long before the settlers organized hunts that would make New England the center of the whaling and whale oil industry. The natives' early hunts laid the groundwork for what would serve as the basic technique for whaling, and would spawn advances in technology that would launch the industry to explore the known and unknown world. Two small New England locales, New Bedford and Nantucket, would become nearly synonymous with whaling, ingraining the sea and whaling culture in generations to come. New Bedford, a small coastal town in Massachusetts, became known as the city that lit the world. This is quite a title for a small coastal town in Massachusetts to hold, and an indication of the importance of the whaling industry to the world economy at the time. Maritime tradition took hold from the very beginning, with boat building, fishing, whaling, and navigation being the main employ of most men at the time. These coastal towns created unique and distinct cultures that spawned rich legends, stories, folk songs, artistry, and technological innovations. The legends that come from New England's maritime traditions have inspired great literature like Melville's Moby Dick, harrowing tales of the sea told to us as kids, such as that of the whale ship Essex, and beautiful folk art in the form of scrimshaw or other carved whalebone. In this project, I will attempt to explore the history, stories, art, songs, and legends that coalesce into the rich folklore that composes a New England whaling tradition. Where Vermont and New Hampshire have their mountain and maple tree tradition, Maine its lobster industry, Connecticut its tobacco farms, and Rhode Island its fishing industry, Massachusetts' very identity, steeped in the oil and blood of whales, is inextricably linked to the traditions that so greatly influenced New England life. Biblical stories, such as that of Jonah and the whale, exemplify that our ancestors were familiar with these creatures, but still harbored uncertainties about their true nature. One of the earliest whaling folklore stories is that of St. Brendan the Navigator, patron saint of sailors, mariners, and whales. There are legends passed down through the ages that St. Brendan, an Irish monk, sailed from Galway on the western coast of Ireland in the 6th century to what he and his companions called the Promised Land of the Saints. It is now widely acknowledged that the ultimate destination was most likely the east coast of the modern-day United States. Evidence has now been found from Connecticut to Virginia to corroborate this voyage of Brendan, and in 1977, an Irish scholar recreated Brendan's craft, retraced his route to the modern-day United States, and completed the voyage, thus turning a long-standing myth into a possible reality. Along this voyage, Brendan describes various types of sea life, but is particularly fascinated by the whales, which travel with him and play with him from time to time, gently nudging his boat. The most famous story from his voyage is that of the mass on the back of a whale. Brendan and his companions come across a small island on Easter Sunday and disembark to say Mass. After the Mass is said, Brendan and his companions realize that they are floating on the back of a deceased whale. This story illustrates how from a very early time, whales, maritime exploration, and the stories born from the experiences are linked to man's attempt to make sense of the world around him. It is by observing and following these migratory mammals that many believe that North America was first discovered by Europe, more than 800 years before Columbus, by a small team of monks in handmade leather boats. Accounts of Brendan's travels over the 7-year voyage survived in monasteries across Europe, so that medieval Europeans were well aware of this legend, and it is said to have influenced Columbus's decision to set out for the New World, illustrating the importance folklore can play in history. At the New Bedford Whaling Museum, there are a myriad of art forms, technological advancements, implements, boats, navigation systems, weapons, logs, journals, industrial as well as commercial products that attest to the importance of whaling in New England, as well as its day-to-day life. It affected every facet of life. One's work, the products one used, the stories one heard, the music one sang. Whaling had repercussions far from sea. Iron, metalworking, foundries, rope walks, gun makers, boat yards, entertainment for men, perfume were but a few of the side industries that sprang up from the whaling industry. This had profound effects on how people lived, what they used, the stories they told, the music they made, what they sang about, all reflected that influential tradition that stretched back generations and had deep ties to their small communities who had pioneered it.
Bedford was established in 1765 specifically to go whaling. So these guys were under no illusions about what they were doing.
Sure.
The idea was that that you could build ships, and you could build them of a certain size to be managed by professionals, so men who knew how to navigate and knew how to hunt whales, to go out into the ocean and to do that. And they built boats here. There were cordage companies here. There were shipsmiths here who made the harpoons, who made the lances, who made the knives. Right up the road, there was an iron foundry where you can make anchors and tripods. And the entire culture of this place was driven towards whaling. And so
Even the motifs on the average New England home, far from New Bedford, attest to the influence of the whaling industry. It is common to see pineapples in any home decor store or on many New England homes, including my own. This was due to the practice of returning captains who had been away at sea sometimes for years to spike a pineapple upside down as a sign for neighbors to come by and hear stories and exotic tales of his experiences at sea. Eventually, the pineapple became acknowledged as a universal sign of welcome. Today, handwritten logbooks of whaling captains from the 1700s are being looked at by meteorologists for weather information because of the incredibly valuable accuracy of detail. Meteorologists, as reported by WBZ recently, have begun looking at captains' logs after recognizing weather terms, patterns, and descriptions that mirror those of today. These logs give detailed weather information to meteorologists 100 years before any other such detailed recorded weather pattern information, shedding light on yet another aspect of whaling folklore's often unintended far reach outside of maritime tradition. During the U.S. Civil War, yet another interesting sign of whaling's reach was how the agrarian South placed such importance on thwarting the industrial North's economic efforts that it tasked one of the few ships its navy had, the Shenandoah, with only attacking Yankee whaling vessels, to deprive them of the whale products that lit the drawing rooms of Europe and lubricated the industrial war machines of the North, without which it could not run. Its captain's actions gave birth to more than a few folk tales of war, piracy, and daring, such as leaving for England with his ship at the cessation of hostilities, which connects whaling and folklore to even the far reaches of American foreign policy.
the South were sort of desperate for assistance when it came to tackling the Federal Merchant Marine, which was how the North was able to maintain its trade networks, maintain all kinds of natural resources coming in and out. And of course, the whale ships provided spermaceti oil for lighthouses, which was extremely important, and whale oil for lubrication of all the
Everything, yeah.
locomotives and steel cutting and everything that was going on in the factories of the North. So, the South negotiated with a shipyard in England. The Shenandoah was built, and away they went with a crew that weren't completely informed about what the mission of the vessel actually was, and then later on they were informed, and the Shenandoah went on its way, and they specifically targeted whalers in the North Pacific, and continued doing so after the war was over. So the war was over, and they were still burning whale ships in the Arctic, and I think there were 70 whale ships were destroyed, not just by the Shenandoah, but by the other commerce raiders,
Wow.
commerce raiders as well. And you read about the story of the Kearsarge in the Alabama. I mean, the U.S. Navy took this very, very seriously, and they tracked down the Alabama and sank her off the coast of France. So, maintaining the freedom of the seas has been a tenet of American foreign policy. Right up to the time of the Civil War. I mean, it was absolutely a vital part of American foreign policy, which is why.
The whaling industry and the folklore it created, by reaching into the farthest depths of history and mankind's imagination, from piracy and the U.S. Civil War to saints and exploration, to common everyday symbols, to music, meteorology, and great literature. The hunt for these gigantic, beautiful beasts by fragile men in small boats has etched its place in mankind's imagination and folklore for all time.
All away the bowling, Kitty is me darling. All away the bowling, ho. All away the bowling, Kitty lives in Liverpool. All away the bowling, ho. All away the bowling, a worker then a more, boys. All away the bowling, ho. All away the bowling, she's got the bulldog by the door. All away the bowling, ho. All away the bowling, so early in the morning. All away the bowling, ho. All away the bowling, the skipper he's a growling. All away the bowling, ho. All away the bowling, the foretop gown a bowling. All away the bowling, ho. All away the bowling, we'll either break or mender. All away the bowling, ho. All away the bowling, we'll haul away together. All away the bowling, ho. All away the bowling, we'll haul for better weather. All away the bowling,